I'm going to go ahead and get started, knowing that people will still be joining us, but it's 3 o'clock. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Amelia Neptune. I work at the League of American Bicyclists, and I'll be just introducing this great webinar. I'm really excited to have Kimberly Bean and Thomas Stokel joining me, so I'll let them introduce themselves in just a moment. But thanks so much for being here, everyone, for this webinar titled Running a Better Bike Month. And one quick logistical note, I wanted to make sure folks know that you can turn on and off the subtitles at the bottom of your screen. There should be a button that says show subtitle or hide subtitle, and the session is being recorded. So if you want to visit it later, we'll be posting it on the League blog later this week. All right, so just a quick introduction from me. The League of American Bicyclists, in case you're not familiar with us, we are a national nonprofit bike advocacy organization, originally founded as the League of American Wheelmen back in 1880. And we started out advocating for the very first paved roads in the nation, recognizing that was an important part to getting people to feel safer and more comfortable biking. And today our mission is very much in the same vein, to lead the movement to create a bicycle-friendly America for everyone. And we do that through a number of programs. We run the National Bike Summit, which I'll be talking about in a few moments. We do a lot of reports and support for local and statewide bike advocates. We run the Smart Cycling program that trains people to be League certified instructors to teach bike safety in their communities. And of course, Bike Month, which we'll be talking about today. And then the program I run is the Bicycle Friendly America program. And in that, we rank all 50 states every other year. And we have opt-in programs for communities, businesses, and universities to receive bicycle-friendly recognition. And those three programs are really about two pieces, both the recognition for things that businesses are already doing to be bike-friendly, but also the feedback. Everybody that applies gets feedback. So not everybody that applies gets an award. Everybody gets feedback, because we really strongly believe that there's potential and there's room to grow for everyone, even if you get platinum, the highest award level. And if you do get an award, we require you to renew every 4 years, because again, that philosophy is that there's room to grow for everyone. And we love celebrating our bicycle-friendly businesses and showcasing the great things that they're doing. We review businesses based on criteria that we refer to as the 5 E's: engineering, encouragement, education, evaluation and planning, and equity, diversity, and inclusion. And I'm really excited about today's presentation because it intertwines with several of the E's. You'll hear about encouragement, but also evaluation and data collection. And so some of the programming and the tools that you'll learn about today will really support a bicycle-friendly business application across the E's. And that's just important to keep in mind. And one other note about the Bicycle Friendly Business Program is that we use the term business very generally. So we've got churches, we've got elementary schools, we've got an ambulance provider, we have multiple police stations, and you'll be hearing from a sheriff's office today. They're not yet on the Bicycle Friendly Business list, but I'm really looking forward to working with Kimberly after this to get them on the BFB list. And you know, we've got corporate Fortune 500 headquarters, and we have 2-person coffee shops. So today's presentation, you know, should have something applicable for all of those ranges of business types, and the Bicycle Friendly Business Program is no different. So if you're interested, there's a lot more information on our website. I'll put some links in the chat for folks who want to dive in and learn more. But I just wanted to flag that our spring deadline is coming up this Wednesday, March 2nd. But we do have other deadlines later in the year. So if you're not ready to apply just yet, don't worry, there's lots of opportunities later in the year. And we look forward to working with lots of businesses through the BFB program and through the other programming that we'll be hearing about today. And finally, I just encourage everybody to engage with the League of American Bicyclists. Again, we're a nonprofit member-based organization. Encourage you to sign up for our newsletter and join our social media accounts. We also have our annual conference coming up in a couple of weeks, the National Bike Summit. And if you like today's content, there will be a lot of similar, really great, useful tools. In addition to the advocacy, the very important work of coming to Capitol Hill and advocating for things like funding for bike infrastructure in your community. So definitely encourage you to check that out at bikeleague.org/summit. And then I will now sort of transition to Thomas's presentation. So Thomas is at Love to Ride, and we have loved partnering with Love to Ride on the National Bike Challenge for many years, from Bike Month to Cycle September. And just last year, we started this wonderful Drive Less, Bike More campaign together to convert 1 million travel miles from driving to biking, and we hit that mark. Our goal was to hit it by the end of last year, and we hit it in November. Over 8,000 workplaces participated, so that was a huge success. We're looking forward to replicating this year. And then Bike Month. Today's webinar is all about Bike Month and the tools that you can use to improve your Bike Month. We've got a lot of great resources on the League website to expand on today's webinar, so I encourage you to check that out. Everything from a Bike Month guide for communities to graphics that you can download and use, to a Bike Month bingo card. So lots of great tools on the website. And with that, I will stop sharing my presentation and hand it over to Thomas from Love to Ride. Thanks, Thomas.
Great. Thank you, Amelia. It's good to be with you all here today. I've been doing Bike Monthly stuff or bicycle encouragement work for just a few years now. I think it's coming up 20 years of getting people on bikes. So I'd love to share with you today some tips, just a few tips. We haven't got much time together, but I want to make this as impactful and juicy as possible to give you all some things that you can do in your organizations to support and encourage more of your co-workers to rediscover riding. So I'm going to give you some tips for engaging your co-workers, for behavior change. I'd love to write a whole lens that we see the world through is through applying behavior change theory, behavior change techniques and principles that the academic world has found has worked and that we have found worked as we apply them to our mission of getting more people on bikes. Measuring your impact also really important. And I've got some tips here from Kimberly today, and then we should have time for a bit of Q&A. Feel free to put any questions in the chat as we go through as well. My first tip, no surprises really, is make it fun and make it social. People like doing things that are fun. People like doing things that are popular that other people are doing. So in terms of these you can see these photos here, people going on group rides. The other thing that we do at Love to Ride is encourage people to form teams. And we have a number of ways that we encourage people to form teams in our platform. I put lighthearted/silly here, and I really encourage you to use your imaginations there because we've had people put on music, attach speakers to bikes, put on wigs, like just really have some fun and let the smiles be the attracting nature. This is key to the work that we do of encouraging people to ride bikes and eventually for transportation and to work, is that you have to understand that people might be starting way down the bottom of this ladder here, like they're not even really thinking about it, or they're just starting to think about it. And if we say to those folks like, hey, ride to work, it's good for you, you'll save money, you'll feel great, you should ride to work. It's just too big a step for so many people, particularly when they haven't been on a bike in a while, or even they're only riding a little bit. So really about understanding where people are at in these what's called stages of change on this ladder. And if you imagine, if you're encouraging your colleagues to ride for the first time in a long time, if you're encouraging someone to drive, you're going to take them to a parking lot, you're going to be super safe, you're going to be very careful. I've heard stories of people saying, oh, we'll go for a ride, and then just like sort of follow me, and then just like taking off, weaving through traffic confidently, and the person behind them obviously is potentially terrified. And so, going around the parking lot, going around the park, along the waterfront, wherever you are, wherever it's sort of safe to get these first-time riders riding is great. And just starting them on this sort of next step, because making it easy to take part is another great tip. And this applies in life for a whole lot of things, right? What's the next little wee step I can get someone to take? And one of the behavior change theories we apply at Love to Ride is the Fogg behavior model at the Stanford Behavioral Unit. Cool guy called BJ Fogg. You can look him up on the interwebs. And to get someone to do a behavior, they need the motivation, they need the ability, and they need a prompt to do that behavior. And obviously you can get that not quite right? So if you prompt someone to ride to work, but the motivation's low and the ability is hard to do, it's going to fall in here, right? Low motivation, hard to do. Hey, ride to work, it's not going to work so much. If I say, hey, come for a bike ride, we're going to get some lunch down at this bar or pub or this whatever, Tex-Mex maybe. And hey, it's along the bike path, it's super easy. And you can borrow one of my bikes, I'll bring it in for you. Now the motivation's higher, the ability is easier, and that kind of prompt is going to be more effective. So we call these like baby steps. And this, if you want to encourage someone to take up running as a different behavior, you could say, hey, just put on your running shoes every day and go out the front door and lock the front door behind you. And just do that. You might then unlock the front door and go back inside the house, and that's your behavior for the day. That's your baby step. But chances are you've got your running shoes on, you've gone outside the front door, you've locked the front door, you go, well, I might as well run around the block. And I did an experiment, I think it was actually 2020, where I just wanted to run around the block, at least run around the block every day. And I think I did it for like 8 months, and then it got cold and I went to indoor cycling. But it was a really powerful experiment for me on this whole concept of baby steps. So in practice, what might this look like? Well, apply this however you wish. But I think this idea of having shorter rides available for newer riders, you might be thinking about doing a bike ride with your colleagues for bike month, for example. And you might be like, oh, I know a great 30-mile route we could do. And for a lot of people, 30 miles might be quite a lot. So you just have you can still do your 30-mile ride, but you might want to, I encourage you to look at, the 2-mile route, or even you might talk about minutes as opposed to talking about distance. So, hey, we're going to go on a 20-minute ride or a 15-minute ride there and a 15-minute ride back. Because for those newer riders that we want to get on bikes, in their minds, that's an easier thing. This idea of a short, sweet, fun riding experience is probably one of the most powerful things that we've discovered in our work to really change a lot of the perceptions about biking. I can talk to someone, we can all talk to people about how great biking is and how great we feel, and it's wonderful and it's amazing. But when you actually do it and you actually get on the bike and you experience it, it does a few things, right? It creates and reinforces these positive emotions around biking. People are physically feeling exhilarated, they're feeling happy, they've got this sense of freedom. And it also helps counter some of the negative perceptions that some people have had. Oh, I'm not a cyclist, I can't ride a bike, oh, cycling's hard and scary. And by getting them on a bike, even just, what are these people doing here around the park at a lunchtime probably, it's a nice, easy, fun experience. And you can see from the smiles that people are doing that. If we can get everyone in America to ride a bike for 10 minutes, and that helps create these new perceptions and helps break down some of these negative perceptions that some people hold, that would be a great thing. So I would encourage you to figure out ways of encouraging people to ride even for a short amount of time. Competition, we're human. We like a little bit of friendly competition. There's a few ways that we do that at Love to Ride. We run different sort of challenges. In May, for example, we've got this team of 10 bike riders. And then in September, we have Cycle September, where offices and companies compete as whole teams. And we use this point system you can see here as the reward. So people compete against each other, people compete team versus team, company versus company. They get points for riding. So these first two are about getting on your bike and riding during the month. And this is about that encouragement piece. So we want to get the existing riders in our company united on board, registered into these types of programs. And then we can leverage this choir, if you will, to reach out to our new audience. So that's how we use points. And in terms of the competition, we have various leaderboards, for example, where they're competing on a level playing field. And in Bike Month this year, what we're doing at Love to Ride is we're running a pools-based competition. So basically, teams compete in a pool of 10 other teams. And that is because if we just had a giant list of 1,000 teams, it's great for the top 3, maybe top 10. But if you're 87th in place, it's not that motivating. And so, it's a lot more fun to be like, oh, hey, we're currently in, 7th place. Hey, we could get on the leaderboard. If we get another couple of thousand points, we can get onto the podium. So it's about creating sort of micro competition. And we also level the playing field more by grouping similar teams. So if these teams are full of hardcore riders versus this team might be full of people who are riding a few days a week at the start of the campaign. So competition, if you can think of ways of leveraging it, it incorporates that social element again, like bringing people together and social element, and then of course on the competition side. Measuring impact, whatever small or big way you can do this. So even if you just wrote down how many people came on your various rides, you've got that documented, you can report that on email, you've got some record of it for future years so that you can look every year to improve and show growth. So there's really low-tech ways of getting some of these numbers and reporting it to your people in your organization. Getting the pictures, it probably goes without saying, but I'm sure there'll be plenty of people naturally in the world of 2020 and smartphones taking lots of photos, but where you can get those photos and use them alongside this type of data. There are, of course, tons of tools you can use that are available. I mean, obviously, Love to Ride is a tool for recording trips and aggregating data points. And you can see here one of the reports that we developed a program called Molex, which gives them the data of how many people took part in the month-long campaign that was Cycle September. We also get data on that. So there's obviously low tech, definitely get something, what gets measured gets done. And of course, there are a bunch of other more sophisticated tools like Love to Ride where you can get a lot more data. That's what I have, but I do want to stop and hear from Kimberly from the Norfolk Sheriff's Office. I think Kimberly started working with us a couple of years ago, and I was keen to hear sort of, from another business about what sort of tips you had, Kimberly, for other folks and what things you tried that you found worked well.
Thank you. I have, my name is Kimberly, like Thomas said, sorry. Work at the Norfolk Sheriff's Office. I've been here actually almost 20 years. I am the Norfolk and Health and Wellness Coordinator. And doing this job has been challenging, but I love it. So that's why I always come and try to come up with more creative ways of getting people encouraged. And in order to do that, it comes with just like Thomas said, I don't know why I want to call you Mike. Just like he said, motivation, prompts, having the ability, that is truly a big part of it, because engaging people isn't as easy as one may think. You may have the events come out, an email, or just a few flyers. That just doesn't do it. You really have to get out and try to motivate in different fashions. Like, hey, we could do a game. And so I actually did put a game together last year. I don't know. I've done different challenges, and they've been successful, knock on wood, but I know that comes with a lot of hard work, me behind the scenes, but trying to make it as fun, that is the big element also. And so last year I did put Love to Ride in our Game of Heroes that I didn't mention before, but the Game of Heroes was really cool because just to give you a little background of the game, it's you being a superhero and nobody knows your identity. So that's your code. And for every week you have 3 new challenges. And so you always have positive threes is basically like cardio, whether it's in bike form, aerobics, or like exercise class and walk. That's like one of the power of threes that had to do every week. And that's where I plugged in Love to Ride, because there are some people, they don't like to walk. They can't run. So the next mode is cycling. Though there was a challenge with having people having a bike of their own, but we do have a couple bikes in our little gym that they could do the indoor stationary biking, cycling, which is nice. The only thing was they could manually enter their time, which was good. But, there are some people like, well, how do we really know they did 20 miles? And I'm like, well, they could take a photo of their, length of time they've done. But that isn't as fun, but it was something that they could still feel included to do. So that was a cool thing that was included. And the Game of Heroes, like I said, it was definitely cool because it was another option to give folks, and they were familiar with it with the Cycle September event, and then adding in the 365 with the winter wheels. I was telling Thomas earlier with the winter wheels, just as he said, sometimes it gets a little too cold for some folks. And I said, well, throw in a jacket and a scarf, and once you start moving, it'll just make you pedal a little faster or a little harder. That works to some extent. And then there's some that are just not convinced at all. But so having fun, definitely motivating others. I will say there's definitely some more avid to cycle, some staff that they have done the Love to Ride, but I've noticed that they haven't done it as much with our group, but I've known that they've done a lot of miles on their own, and I've seen it, on Facebook or what, and I said, okay, well, that's cool. The only thing with that is it would be nice to get people together, but if we can't, if we come together on leadership board, that's great. But having said that, I'm like, maybe we can, make it a little more challenging. And I don't know how I could do that because law enforcement, right? They have called the Blue Run, law enforcement Blue Run, and it's basically cycling 100 miles. Now, that's really involved. I know there are some that are interested, but that has been filled up a little sooner than you have to do it in advance, so like a year in advance to sign up for this. And I said, well, maybe this can lead us up to that. Maybe this year we can maybe shoot for 2023, and maybe we could do something in a challenge that we can make an ultimate goal to do the Blue Run for next May.
Emily, you mentioned before you
yeah.
had that letter on your desk. Can you talk a little about that?
I can, yes. The letter is from the sheriff, and this wasn't the first event we did. This was actually the second. I did say it first, but this was the second Cycle September. The first one we did get 36 participants, which is big because a lot of people didn't have a bike, and then the ones that got a bike was at the end of the year or end of the month. But this last September with COVID and everything, it was nice because we did collectively 2,200 miles, coming in fourth place. The sheriff recognized it and basically saying that with the combined effort of you and our staff contributing 2,200 miles throughout the entire month of September, which landed Team NSO in fourth place for the entire team tires challenge, bravo. Your drive is to get sworn and civilian staff to reach their health and wellness goals do not go unnoticed. Thanks to you, I had the pleasure of seeing many of our staff physically motivated to become the best version of themselves in order to be better serve themselves and our community. I enjoyed seeing the excitement you share in what you do. Thank you. And as you know, Norfolk Sheriff's Office is committed to public safety, public service, and public trust. Our purpose is to make a difference in the lives of others as far as we can reach. I appreciate that you are also making a difference in the lives of others in our community and the Norfolk Sheriff's Office. Go Team NSO. That was that. So that was nice. I mean, it was basically recognizing it because he doesn't see a lot of things that go. It goes past his radar because he has so many things going on. But he actually did take the time to recognize that because that was challenging, especially with COVID and all of that coming. So
I think the point I was going to mention before, and I'm glad you raised it up, was a couple of things. One is the power of leadership. And I think when you mentioned that before we started the call, that you had this letter on your desk from the sheriff, I think what we see is when, the leadership team of a company does get behind your biking initiatives, it can have a big impact. So I think that would be another tip is, get that buy-in from your leadership team to write an email, write a Slack message, get on their bikes, take a photo, show them that they're riding the ride, walking the walk, because it can have a real impact on influencing other staff members to, do the thing and take part as well. And then I think, there's kind of I think everyone's probably greatest resource in our companies right now for biking is all the existing bike riders. Like, I think if you think of the people who are already biking, it's one thing for us to be passionate. And as you said, Kimberly, like, this is still hard work to do this, to achieve this kind of engagement. And so I think, if we get our existing bike riders on board, and that you may remember seeing the points that we have and having points for encouraging, first of all, getting those existing bike riders on your team. And secondly, getting your existing bike riders to help you get other people to ride bikes. If every existing rider got one other person to have that positive experience, that would obviously be a good thing. I know we've got about 5 minutes left, and I see my colleague Laura Sneros calling in from Austin. Hey, Laura, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm happy to see all these people here. It's a great opportunity to talk about how to engage your folks. And just to recap, I'll just say, one, definitely identify those people within your organizations who are strong riders, make them your advocates, enlist them, enroll them into getting their coworkers on a bike. Do try those baby bite strategies, set up you can do a bike to lunch where you use bike share there in your where you work, if you guys are not working remotely, if you're working out of an office, so that you can do a bike to lunch utilizing bike share for all those folks that don't have bikes. Definitely use your internal message boards. Create kind of a structure around Bike Month. Identify like what you're going to focus on each week so that you can keep your coworkers engaged, right? This week, we're going to focus on all the ladies in the house. So all the ladies are going to get out and ride. Next week, we're going to focus on maybe it's get your kids on a bike and go for a ride with your kids. So create focus areas around each week so that you have these kind of small targets, if you will, to keep working to and keep people engaged. And then the other thing is internally celebrate your folks. Use Instagram, use your social media, have them take pictures of themselves out on their bikes. How, crowdsource, like which was the best picture this week, and oh, Amy gets the t-shirt, whatever it is, right? This is a celebration. I mean, biking is a celebration of independence and liberty from a car. Bike Month itself is a celebration of biking and all the benefits that biking brings you. So bring that celebration internally, make it about a celebration for the good work that you're doing, trying to get your employees and coworkers biking.
Awesome. Thank you, Laura. I was going to say the points competition thing, there is a lot to that. And I think the celebration point there you mentioned, Laura, like, let me just share my screen again. Actually, I'll show you all something real quick. We are doing a campaign in this little wee town called New Zealand, where if you haven't yet guessed from my accent, is where I'm from. And we're running the Aotearoa Bike Challenge, and it's just finished actually yesterday. And you can see here, this is like a profile page for one of the companies, Becca, who said 42% of their staff take part. Lots of people, all the good stuff. You can click easily to join and grow your team. And here, this is what I'm going to show you, celebrating. So Emily has encouraged 24 people to ride. Catherine's encouraged 8 people. Celebrating this thing, it's one thing to celebrate, the riders. So Catherine's, wow, has like got 2,000 distance points. So she's obviously ridden her bike a lot this last month. And that's great. We want to celebrate these people. And then I think the celebrating those encourages, there's a lot of, there are a lot of people on the team. Lots of reasons to celebrate is what I'm trying to say. Like, I think your point, Laura, about the celebration is very apt. And I was going to share this screen, and we will send out an email. Amelia and I will coordinate on getting you some links because there's the Bike Month, obviously, is coming up. There's the Bike Summit, which I'd recommend. You can attend that virtually. I think it's like $70, right, Amelia? So it's a couple of days of good speakers
for
there.
members, $70.
And then you're taking late applications. I mean, March 2nd is coming out. What about March 5th?
So the summer BSB round will open immediately after the spring one.
Ruthless.
So they can apply for the June one. Yep, sorry.
Cool. No, all good. I love it.
Schedule.
Nothing like a deadline, y'all. Nothing like a deadline. And then I was just going to show quickly, this is the Love to Ride for Business site. So if you wanted to learn about what we do with Love to Ride for Business and all the benefits of that, you can obviously go and watch this fantastic video featuring Tom Stokel and obviously hearing other businesses. So that's just business.lovetoride.net. Our emails, I think, we're on there. So it's Thomas at Love to Ride, and we'll put them in the chat now. If you've got any questions, any other sort of closing thoughts from anyone, I want to be respectful of people's time.
Yeah, I'll just say we recognize May as National Bike Month, but I encourage folks to find the time that works best for you. I know tomorrow is the first day of Florida Bike Month, and there are several states that celebrate it in June, and Love to Ride is a fantastic platform for year-round. And, they've got Cycle September, among many other things. So I encourage businesses and organizations and communities to find the time that works best for them and focus all their encouragement efforts on the time that is best for them. So with that, I want to thank our friends at Love to Ride for being here. Thank you, Kimberly, for representing the Sheriff's Office. And thank you, our attendees. This is an experiment to do a half-hour webinar, and it's really fun to see that we successfully did it. So thanks all.
Cool. Thanks, y'all. Have a good rest of your day. Cheers.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.